What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 412 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR, my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Happy fall, right? Today's the first day.
It is.
Autumn,
Yeah,
fall.
yeah.
It's the official first day. Happy fall. It's beautiful weather. Anyways, joining us this week is Johnnie Christmas. Now, Johnnie is an artist and writer whose talents can be found in books like Sheltered and the New York Times #1 best-selling graphic novel Angel Catbird, and most recently on titles such as Crema and Image Comics' Tartarus. Johnnie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Now, I'm going to do my thing where I defer to Alex because Alex had the opportunity to meet you briefly back in the before time. When we could do things. It was the last weekend we could really do stuff.
Pretty much. Yeah.
When Alex went to Chicago to visit C2E2, and while I was up in Boston at PAX. So Alex, take it away. What's going on?
It's we're really good at making mistakes where we have a chance
we are.
we walk around, we look at tables, we go, hey, that's neat. I'm going to come back to this, and somehow get distracted and never come back. And this is what happens. But I was able to just know in my head how much regret I had on the way home, because I came by Johnny's table. He introduced himself. He gave me the pitch for Tartarus. I was like, that looks really cool. I'll see you later. And then it never happens. It's which the I'll come back shows up on convention artists and writers like bingo board of, things they hear at a show that never happens. But I've been picking it up at my local comic shop, making sure it's keeps getting ordered there. And I've been digging it. I made JR read a couple of the issues. We broke quarantine for me to deliver some comics to him. And I've been digging it, and I was like, JR, we should talk to this guy. I'm gonna try to talk to this guy. And here we are.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad that you had a chance to rectify it and get on into the shop and get some issues of Tartarus. But you really threw me just now. I did not realize this is the first day of fall. Holy smokes,
Right?
man!
Crazy. I saw a bunch of people like tweet. My boss mentioned it this morning at a meeting, like happy first day of fall, and I was like, no, it's not. And then I checked my calendar, and it sure enough, it absolutely is. It's like last week I was using my air conditioner. Now this week I'm turning on the heat.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But welcome. I'll take it. Yeah, I had the opportunity to read a couple issues of Tartarus, which is kind of the current book, the book that's coming out.
Yep.
There's a new issue coming out, I believe, next month in October. Is that the next issue?
Next issue is dropping October 28th. That's issue number 6. But next week, you can pick up the trade. It's going to be dropping first 5 issues. Nice big trade because a lot of the issues ran oversized. We just kind of going all out with stories. So it's like 172 pages of trade paperback for your regular price. So lots of little extra sketchbook section. It's going to be awesome. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm glad you mentioned there's a sketchbook section, because to stick on Tartarus for a bit, there's so much going on in the book. I'm wondering if you had like a pin board or something to organize all the characters and the places they would be, and researching like other interviews you've done with your artist, Jack, and talking about, he would draw some parts of a city or the space station, and then even just creating characters, and some characters like they're in for an issue and then we never see them again. So there's a lot that I want to talk about. So I guess to organize the whole thing, like, did that take up a wall, or were you able to like keep it in a file, or how is this simple or really difficult to organize, like all the places this goes?
Well, so what we try to do is I kind of had each issue. I had this kind of big framework, and I had each issue thematically. I kind of knew what had to happen to move us along story wise, and I was like, oh, just for fun, I'm going to have a kind of a subtle theme each issue so each one feels really kind of full. I wanted each issue to feel like a meal, not like. I didn't want it to. We wanted to build it so it didn't feel that you're waiting for the trade, or that it's gonna. Oh yeah, that's when it's gonna be the thing. We wanted each unit that we sold, like every issue to be a reason in and of itself, not just something that you wait around for. So so we wanted to pack it with good story and a lot of good well, you know, as you can see, Jack went all out with the art. But yeah, so we had this like huge, you know, framework of where we wanted to go and things we wanted to say. And then just kind of I left the framework really simple because I knew that we were gonna like really get dense per issue. I didn't realize just how how like full on we were gonna go because we would just get these ideas and we'd like, you know, riff, and then like Jack would do something then and I would kind of, so we just started expanding it and going like, well, this is a comic book. We could do whatever we want. Like we don't have to be anything but ourselves, and this is kind of what we are. So let's just be us. So there's this awesome kind of process of self-discovery and discovery of what the book is and what the story is and who me and Jack are as a unit working. And it's funny because we've been kind of working on it for a few years now. Like Jack, I think Jack said so in a public post about kind of being a little behind on things. So we had more time as a result. But it's interesting. Like we kind of had a lot of time for groundwork. So the ground was really nice and fertile. But every issue, everything was like a tree growing really fast, you know, if that makes any sense. So we had a lot of time over the long term, but each issue was just like these spikes. So every issue is like, as it is with the monthly comic book series, every issue is a sprint, but a sprint over ground that we've been tilling for, you know, smoothing out and grading and all that for quite some time. If that answers the question. You know.
Yes, I have more though.
Good.
So like you said, you know, they're not all of them are regular size issues. You go over your 22 pages. Was there any negotiation with Image, or were you just able to say like, this is what it's going to be, and they just go okay, or like, was there any pushback?
There wasn't any pushback. So the first issue was the one that we knew we were going to go over because we wanted to, since it is a space opera, we have these characters that we want to place each character in a place so that when we do kind of when we start moving in certain directions, they're in position. It's like a chess board. So we wanted the first issue to be double sized, so we had the room to kind of lay out where we're going in a way that doesn't feel cheap later on. That's why you get, you know, much like Game of Thrones, you get a lot of characters right off the top, so that when things start moving, you're like, oh yeah, I know who that person is, and I know who the Baratheons are, and I know it's not like some cheat later on. So so we wanted the first one, you know, double size. They were cool with that. And then for the rest of the issues, they give you like, you know, every comic book is essentially 32 pages, right? But usually you only get 20 to 22 pages of story, and then the rest are ads or you know, comments, you know, a letters page or extras, etc. So we were planning for 22 each one, but we knew certain ones were gonna, like, you know, we got these extra 6 pages, you know, and if we really want to like really be impactful on certain issues, we have this leeway. So for issue 2, we're like 22. I think issue 3 may have been 22. But issue 4, we have this like crazy Cerebus robotic dog fight scene. So Jack was like, man, I think I wanna expand the fight scene. So he threw in like 4 extra pages there, and then I added 2 extra pages of setup on that one. So that issue came in at 26. And issue 5, we're gonna go all the way out. We got 28 pages. We're going 28 pages because we have a real big reveal at the end of issue 5, and so we wanted to set things up in a way that didn't feel rushed. Because we're tying a few things together, not tying up, but getting things into a bottleneck, so that when it expands out for the second arc, things really kind of make sense, you know.
Right.
So yeah, so no pushback. They're really cool with it. They were printing 32 anyway, you know, 32 including cover, the 4 covers. So yeah, it was great. We were able to do what we needed to do and tell the story our way.
I love that you have the ability to do that and that you're willing to kind of push that boundary, because, you know, I think I mean, I have never written a comic. I have never attempted to work with a publisher. But the fact that you're aware of, you know what, this needs to be more. We can't squeeze this into 22 pages. If we did, it would be doing the story a disservice. I think that speaks volumes to like the fact that you care about your product and you care about how it's presented. Rules, quote unquote, be damned. It's just it needs, if it's gonna run long, it's gonna run long. That's what it is. I doubt fans are gonna be upset for more content.
Exactly. Yeah, and like the readers are who we had in mind. We just wanted, if you can tell when someone cares about their book, like you could tell when it's just it's oh yeah, it's just product for the shelf, but you can really tell when creators care. So and you can't manufacture that. Like it's there or it's not. So me and Jack were just like really excited about it and really just I don't know, man. We love this. So when we had these opportunities, and you get that kind of enthusiasm coming one way or the other, we've been real. Like if I go to Jack, I think I want to do 2 extra pages. He's always like, yeah, cool. Like he doesn't like he's amped about it. And if he was like, he's so amped about the story, he wants to do 4 extra pages. It's a real special thing. It's a special book. And we hope that comes across to readers, and we think it will. We even got this like designer in Ben Didier, who's just amazing. He's the same designer who worked on Little Bird. So we've got him doing extra like design pages and like doing all this like wonderful packaging design on the book that so that it even feels like a special product. We want it to feel like a special thing that you have, like that you found that's like your favorite band that no one knows kind of thing, yeah, we have the reader in mind. We have ourselves in mind too, because it's been like a real joy to do this book.
There has to be a lot of dedication in certain things, creatively and design wise, because we'll take issue 1 for example, where there's basically like a map or a blueprint of that super prison, and then it blows up. And it's like, okay, we put all this work in designing this thing. Now it doesn't exist anymore.
Like, you guys ever watch that show Mad Men?
A little bit.
Yeah, 1960s executives or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I remember like watching episodes of that, and it was like I thought it was gonna be boring, at first when I first started watching it, because it was about 1960s ad executives, man.
Yeah.
But then you hear these interviews, and it's just like, oh, I think there's something here. So I started watching it. I was like, holy smokes, this is like the story really moves. And when I heard interviews with Matthew Weiner, the creator of it, he was saying that they just burn story. Like they treat every season as though it's going to be the last season. So they do not mess around. And that always kind of stuck with me, that you could just kind of, you can just go for it. Like we have this, we made this super detailed, like awesome prison. And we're like, what's best for this story right now? For this jailbreak, like what is the most awesome way you could break out of jail? You break the jail, you blow it all up, right? In the escape. So we're just like, all right, that's what we're doing. And then once you turn that corner, you're like, oh, all right, well, where do we go now? Because we blew it up. Like, all right, so let's keep moving. So I think that first issue really sets the tone in terms of pace, and we could just keep moving real fast, really like decisively. And when we make these like turns or cliffhangers, like you really feel it. You're like, holy smokes, what are they going to do now? Because what are they going to do now? And that's the same feeling I had when watching Mad Men. And that's what the feeling I have a bit even working on the book. Like we have it mapped, we know where we're going to go, but sometimes like how we're going to get there is kind of like, man, we're going to have to do something drastic. And it's really fun from a storytelling perspective to just make those big moves and make those big leaps.
It establishes threat too, because there's we've all read a comic or seen a show where it's like, where they introduce a character and they're dead. They're on screen for 5 minutes or on page for, 4 pages maybe. And yet, like, we established, a relationship with Circa. And when Jared brought the comics back to me, he's like, "Oh no, they killed her." And I was like, "Well, the whole thing's not about her."
Yeah, we wanted to establish the danger of the world, and so what better way than with the most dangerous character in the world, So you have this whole setup of just how deadly she is. You find her at the bottom of the worst prison on the worst planet, She's like that bad, and she busts out. And we wanted to remember when we were having early discussions, we were trying to figure out how we're going to build the mythology of Circa, and with the page count that we have, and I think it was Jack who was just like, why don't we just make that whole first issue, that first half of the double size, about Circa's jailbreak. And it was just like, all right, yeah, we could do that. Why don't we just do that instead of establishing the threat that she is through, a lot of exposition? We can show it. We can show just how badass she is, and therefore we're showing the stakes that are involved for anybody who's living on this planet, and for when Tilda and her buds come down to the planet, and they really don't know what this planet's like, how deadly this planet is, but the reader does. So our reader has this sense of kind of worry of like, what are they these kids are on shore leave, and they're showing up on this like death planet, and how are they gonna make it? And when we quickly see that things start to happen to them very fast, as soon as they touch down.
Yeah, you had mentioned, I think both of you, in an interview I read, mentioned how, well, if you're going to tell a story, you have art to tell it with. So either you could have a commander, on the bridge saying how dangerous this person is for 8 bubbles, or you could just draw it happening and, prison guards being afraid of her and then her killing all of them.
Right. Yeah, like it's much more impactful if you see how they react to her when she shows up than if they, like you said, if someone just went and expounded for a great deal, and then you're just like, okay, all right, that's nice, whatever. But all you need is like someone to mention over the comms that I think Circa's out, and then they're like, what, come again, and then when they see her, they kind of like all freeze, but she's calm as like, as a cold glass of milk, she's not, nothing shakes her. And that in itself is kind of scary. And even the people who are with her when she's on this jailbreak, they're like, the psychological warfare of speaking into the comms, the prison comms, like announcing that they've busted out, and they're just saying like, all of her titles, right? She's like almost like Apollo Creed in Rocky, where he has like all these titles of like Master of Disaster, blah blah blah, and they're announcing within the prison that they have not broken out of yet, that they've broken out, and she's loose. And I just thought that was just so badass that they are all such hardened, seasoned criminals that all they need to do is get past one lock, and that's it. It's over. Yeah. So I think it's imperative in comics, being a visual medium and a visual storytelling medium, to tell the story visually whenever you can, right? A lot of times you have these barriers of page count where you really do need to say a certain part of the story in these 2 pages, so you can expand out and have a 4 pages of fight scene, which is what everybody wants to see. But if you can tell the story visually over that span of pages you have, instead of just showing not telling, then I think it's much more exciting for the reader and exciting for the creators, honestly, to do it that way.
I'm going to ask an unbelievably broad question. And
go for it.
You can feel free to either answer as short or in detail as you want, but I'm just curious because I excuse me, I am a big fan of Image Comics. Tartarus is being released through Image. Most of the books that I pick up tend to be independent. Most of them being Image. I really enjoy the stories that are put out. For someone like me who's just genuinely curious, what's it like to put out a your own creator-owned book with Image?
Man, it's exciting. Like I gotta say, so my first book with Image was Sheltered back in 2013, and I swear, before it came out, I thought something was gonna happen. I thought like the world was gonna end, or like I was just so excited that it was gonna actually happen that I was just like, "There's no way this is gonna actually happen. Like it can't happen, right?" Like these like and then so like as the weeks started progressing and we got and the announcement came out in previews and like all our friends knew, it was like holy crap, I think this might be happening. And then as we started inching towards like release, and this one comic shop, Maximum Comics out in Las Vegas, you guys check it out. Maximum J, the dude who runs it, that guy runs a comic shop in the most beautifully professional, inviting way. He had us come on out for Sheltered, and so that was like, so it was like my first, Image comic book, and having a signing at a comic shop, being flown out, that kind of thing. So it was like I didn't think it was going to happen, and then it happened like in this really big way. And then Shelter got a really great reception and a great critical response. So and I have to say, like, I have the same excitement whenever like a new book comes out. Like I thought it would be like, oh yeah, old hat, I've been at this game for a while. Like with Tartarus, I think I may have been more nervous because we put so much more time into it, and there's just so much more expansive. Like Sheltered was like a crime story told through the eyes of children who are losing their innocence. So it's like this very emotional, beautiful, horrific tale, of survival. But with Tartarus, it has a space opera thing,
Mm-hmm.
and being a fan of sci-fi and Star Wars and all that, and being able to tell these stories, not just, oh, can you guys hear the fire truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This street I'm on, there's always something on fire. So, so to be able to tell these stories through like with this emotional heart and all that with sci-fi is great, but we can also do all these like use all the cool sci-fi tropes, right? We're not in a trailer park as they were in Sheltered. We're like in space. It could be anything we want, right? So if we want there to be a giant threat stopping, our heroes from getting across the finish line, it could be a giant 3-headed dog with lasers, like we could just do that, So, but yeah, it's really exciting, man. Like it never gets old, and and even every issue, like when I go into the shop and I see like our book there, just like, man, like there we are, I don't know, it's fun.
One of the things that has always kind of intrigued me, I guess maybe because it's my own type of roadblock, or I'm not sure quite how to word it, but like I think the difference between coming up with an idea and then following up on that idea and following through with that idea, and then managing any potential criticism, roadblocks. How do you, like, what's your process like when you decide, hey, I have this idea, I want to write this book, you know how do you get started? How do you work through any sort of roadblocks? Kind of like, well, I don't know if it's makes financial sense. I don't know if people are going to like it. I don't, like, how do you kind of work through any those roadblocks when creating something like a comic?
Uh, First, you just begin. You just start. You just head out in that general direction, and then just inertia and momentum and hard-headedness and stubbornness and a will to fight and persevere. Because what will happen is so yeah, so you have this idea, and it's all beautiful because it's all in your head, and it is untouched and unmarred, and it's actually perfect because it's not it's not written down, right? And then you write it down, and it's just not what you wanted it to be, right? Because
Right.
you actually have to figure out the ways in which to make it work as a story instead of just this like, oh yeah, man, it's about space. Like, oh, perfect, done. Right? It's like, okay, now what about space? Like, what are you trying to say? It's about, okay, it's about, and sometimes you discover as you're making it. I didn't realize how much. I knew it was about family, but I didn't know how much this was about family until we started writing it. Until the characters started saying stuff. I was like, oh man, they really love their family. And as I got to know the characters, they start speaking to you. People say this, and it sounds, it's true. Like there's something that you discover along the way as you're discovering your character. So you go through that process of the imperfection, and you try to like scale back as much perfection as you can. So that just takes a whole ton of work to get this goop that you squirted out, secreted, and make it into something that's actually cool. So that'll take work. And then every step of the way after that leaving of paradise, after you've left the Eden of your mind, it's all hard work and just like trying to convince an artist or a publisher or a retailer to pick it up or a reader to pick it up. And it's just, it requires a certain amount of dogged determination. And then, and being able to use that energy that's coming your way, that's telling you no, as fuel to persevere. Like, did you guys watch that Last Dance doc with Jordan?
I'm in the middle of it right now.
Oh, it's so good. I'm not going to ruin anything. I love that doc so much. I'm going to say one thing. I don't think it's going to, if you're in the middle of it, they may have already said it. They may have already come to this part or not, but I don't think it's going to ruin anything. You've gotten, the character of the gentleman at this point, but he had this one, there was a couple times where people slighted him, or he perceived it as a slight. Or in some instances, he may have even made up the slight to fuel himself to go into the next game. Or I was talking to someone who said something about like local high school teams or whatever. And the one thing that they never do is shit talk the other team, because the coach of the other team will then print it out and put it up in the locker room. the slights. This is not bad or anything. It's just, but life will present challenges for you, and instead of taking those, and it's very easy to be discouraged. But to meet force with force and push back on those challenges with as much effort as you can, I think is you learn to actually enjoy that part of the process too. It's just another part of the process. You get up in the morning, you're like, all right, I'm going to try and do this thing. All right, well, that got kind of swatted down. All right, how do I get around that? How do I go through it? How do I, as they say in that Strokes song, your faith has got to be, greater than your fears. You gotta push on through. Yeah. I don't know if that answered it directly,
no, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't let that kind of thing slow me down. Well, in my neighborhood when I was growing up as a kid, it was the weirdest thing, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, because it's not just my neighborhood. Like I've seen it like elsewhere, in the world. But if you say you want to do anything, right? Like you say you want to be city dog catcher, someone's going to tell you it's too hard.
Yeah,
someone's
absolutely.
like, oh, you're going to need a permit, or you're going to need to get you're going to take a class to become city dog catcher. You got to the dogs are going to growl at you. Like there's always someone who immediately tells you what is wrong with the desire, right? They're not trying to help you formulate a plan. They're not trying to help you see the benefits of your vision. But immediately they're coming down with something that's telling you why it won't work. Right. And so I very quickly just started, when people would start in with that, I was like, oh yeah, okay, right, yeah, all right, cool. Then I just go do it anyway. Because they're not going to be there when you're doing it, because they're already back here in the land of no, right? Of the land of it can't be done, and okay, that's okay. I won't be there, that's not where I am.
It's unfortunately, there's been a few times where that's been me, because it's one of my part-time jobs is to train makeup artists for a haunted house, and they'll have an idea for a new face or a new prosthetic of some kind, and the first thing I do is go, oh, that's too heavy. That's gonna do this. How are you gonna secure that? And I'm only doing it because I've failed at what they want to try, because I've tried it a few times and it hasn't worked. And I tell myself that the effort is to try and like get them to not fare well I did. And it's like I have to catch myself a lot and like, don't shoot it down, like, but try to assist. And yeah.
I've had that with working with other artists and being an artist, or working in comics and learning and knowing like certain processes that are just more efficient. So when someone, like I'm working with Mike, come up with an idea that is like, that may not seem as efficient as the processes that I already know are proven. What I generally do is go, all right, if you want to do it, but this is what I found. But this is now what I know, the processes that I know that work are just another tool that you have to maybe strengthen this new crazy idea and direction you want to go in, or maybe you will weigh both of them and say, oh, the old process actually works, let me not invent the wheel. Or you might look at it and go, they might turn it sideways and see something that I haven't seen, and gone like, oh, you know what, there's an opening here, there's an opportunity. So it is wise to inform and let people know that, oh, someone's actually done that before. There is a way that it's being done, but also give them a little bit of room to play around a little bit, because people find stuff every day. Someone's finding something, a new way to disrupt entire things, or to maximize the process in a way that we who've been looking at processes for too long may have missed.
I wanted to touch on your other project that recently came out. I believe it was back in June, if I have it correct, with Crema. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hopefully it's
yeah.
I worked in a cafe at one point. But that title was released exclusively on ComiXology.
Yeah.
What was that like, creating a book that was just strictly digital? Was that something that you'd ever done before, or was all your work up until then print?
Yeah, all of my work was print, and so I was always curious about digital and just like creating for it, and also like the business of it, and like how does that work, So because like the longer I'm in comics professionally, the more I actually want to like see every angle of it now. So creatively it was really cool, because with ComiXology, something's on fire again. Can you guys hear it? I'm telling you, there's gonna be like 4 more before we're done. So working with ComiXology was really great in terms of creativity. Like much like Image, they do not get involved at all. They're just like, okay, that sounds good. Deliver the book by this time, But one of the things that I found that I didn't realize while creating it is that, splash pages are kind of, you can't, like, it's kind of a wasted page, right? Because it'll zoom, depending on how someone's reading the book, like it'll fill up the entire reading plane with per panel,
Right.
So I had some really dope splash pages written in there. I was like, oh yeah, and this is gonna happen, and that's gonna happen, and I had these, like had it built as you would build for print, my script, and then I sent it to, like, we had a former editor on, and then the editor sent the ComiXology guidelines back to me, like after I had like kind of gone through the script, done a script. So that's when I like saw the like thing. Oh, by the way, don't do splash pages. And I was like, oh man. I was just like the whole flow of how I was like trying to construct the scene and build up to the big. Oh no! So I had to like go back in and kind of tweak and break down some pages in some ways to not have the splash pages. But yeah, that was a big thing, and page turn reveals. So
Mhm.
a lot of times you want to, if you can, uh, have a big reveal on that left hand page. So the a lot of times when we're reading comics, I know I do. My eye will like skip ahead to the next page, and I'll see the surprise.
Mhm.
But if you
Right.
hide it on that left hand page, like they'll never see, it, and they flip that page, and oh my goodness. So that the good thing about digital is every page is a surprise because you can't see it.
Mhm.
But you don't you don't have to build the comic for that. So it kind of you had to find a different rhythm. You had to kind of create your own rhythm because the surprise could be anywhere.
It's weird. It's a dumb question for like professional writers who can switch back and forth between their genres at ease. But with Crema and Tartarus coming out, within each other's publishing times, and as you're writing them, was it a difficult step to switch out of violent, fast-paced space opera to something much more personal, much more slower, just between two people and their ghosts? And it was that like a weird switch to make, or had you already had that separated pretty easily?
It was a very refreshing switch because like with Tartarus, it's like it's built very much like it's very kind of structured and like it's built like a machine a bit, with like lots of space for the artist to infuse a lot of life. But like the scripting for that is built in a very kind of orderly way so that we can get all the information that we need to get in there in a way that reads sensibly. But Crema was much more. It had, definitely had quite a bit of structure, but it was much more. You're building for emotion, instead of there is a scene. There are scenes where like there's ghostly hauntings where you get that emotional impact through the visual of something cool happening. But with but for the most part, you're going to get most of your emotional impact through the character interaction. So it was like a really nice way of um, building that that emotional world building of having the characters interaction build the scene instead of going into like have like the visuals build the scene. So it was fun. It was like a really fun way to bounce back and forth where I can get like writing Crema was like having like a warm cup of coffee or warm beverage. So it's just kind of like it was like a slower pace. It was much more smooth. Like the writing process was I would go to cafes and I would like listen to chatter and I would write and I would just kind of contemplate life and stuff. And with Tartarus, it's much more like hair pulling and and trying, okay, how are we going to do this and how are we going to build that? Okay, we're going to it's much more like a timed puzzle or something. Um, yeah.
Being an artist, like you kind of you've handled both responsibilities. You've drawn books. You've also obviously written books. Um, you worked with Margaret Atwood on Angel Catbird, which debuted at #1 in the New York Times bestseller. That had to feel amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
it did.
is it coming from that artist, being an artist yourself and working with other artists? Are there any times of not necessarily conflict, but like is it tough to like, I was really envisioning something this way, maybe could you try, like, do you have to pump the brakes on yourself sometimes to kind of let them do their thing? What's it like being an artist but also having to take the back seat and just focus on the writing?
Well, I've been very fortunate in that the artists that I've worked with are just amazing storytellers, and which is one of the things I look for when I want to work with an artist. So I haven't. So half the joy is kind of doing this structural stuff, but also letting the artist know that they are the visual boss of the book, So half the fun is like stepping back and letting them do it, because I've found that most of the time it's much better than I would have envisioned, like what they do, especially giving them the freedom to just to do it, so long as we're hitting our story beats and points and things that we need to push us into the next scene, then they can, you know, I want them to have freedom, because I know as an artist, there's nothing worse than a script that chokes the life out of you,
Right.
or you can't be free and you can't add. You need it's an interesting thing when you're a comic book artist, because it's like, especially if you're on a monthly schedule, so you might be like, with me, I was always on the page a day schedule, and I know not everyone's on that schedule, but it's pretty intense, like no matter how many pages a day you do, or a week. And it's always nice to have something to look forward to on that day, where you wake up and you go, oh yeah, this is the day where I get to do that scene, or this is the day where I'm not quite sure how I'm going to bridge that gap as an artist in terms of the scene. The scene calls for this, and here the script is giving me my roadmap to do it, but how am I going to do that emotionally? How am I going to do that in terms of what I'm going to throw in the background? How am I going to do that in terms of, and you want your artist to like come to the page with the same kind of like joy and curiosity and like fear and all that's like that whole thing, instead of them coming to it and going like, oh yeah, time to phone it in. So I think that that's something that I keep in mind, having had the other experience, and still having the experience. I'm still a comic artist, but knowing that, like, and even actually, even when I write for myself, I leave myself stuff to be excited for when I'm drawing, because I know that there's kind of a rhythm to, if you have somebody, draw 8 pages a talking scene, like, man, you got to give them something. You can't. You got to give them something. So I try to give my the artists that I work with, uh, some meat, some fun stuff to play with, and some things that'll challenge them, or some things that they, give them the opportunity to challenge me. Yeah, I like to. It is a collaboration, so it's nice to be the first person who's serving in this tennis match, to give the other person something that they can shine on when they hit it.
As we get ready to wrap up here, and wind down the episode, Johnny, we like to give people a minute or two. We've been talking about your work a lot, but we haven't really said, aside from like ComiXology and Image, where can people find your work? Obviously there's the comic shops with Tartarus every week, ComiXology. You can take a look at Crema. As far as anything else, where if people might be looking to find you, whether it's on the internet, obviously not so much appearances coming up lately, but I don't know if you're doing anything online or anything like that. Where can people go to find your work?
Well, as you said, the comic shop. Everybody support your local comic shop. If you there's curbside pickup. There's all sorts of options available. You can get Tartarus there. ComiXology.com is where you get Crema. As you've said, JR, thank you. I'm going to be doing a panel on the 30th, I believe, through GNCRT, and I think it's that'll be on the 30th, and I think it's like Black people in comics or something, a panel like that. So we'll be talking about, I'm not quite sure what we were talking about, but you can see me there. I'm going to be doing something at the Mississauga library in October. There'll be like a creator chat, and I'm sure there's a smattering of other things. I don't have my like calendar up right now, which I should, and it's a bit
How about socials,
socials.
Instagram?
Yes, indeed. So I'm on Instagram at Johnny with an IE XMAS, Johnny Xmas on Instagram. I'm on Twitter at J_XMAS. Yes, that was an underscore. Quite unfortunate. That was not the first Johnnie Christmas on Twitter. So there you have it. And then Facebook, Johnnie Christmas, of course, with an IE, Johnny. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's more social media than is healthy for one person to have. So I'm gonna cap it there. Yeah.
Johnny, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on the success with Tartarus. Seeing it in this episode's been kind of hyped up, at least to me, for a while now. Alex brought it up back in March ish. And he lent me the issues. And then as I've been, hey, when are we talking to Johnny? Oh, later on. Johnny's busy as hell. And then every every month or so, I'll see the issue in the comic shop, and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna talk to him soon. It's just fun. But congratulations on the success with Tartarus. Hopefully, again, the trade is coming out. That's exciting. Everyone you can pick up that trade. That sounds like it's gonna be oversized. You said.
Oh yeah.
Like it's going to be a lot of content because you had those big first issue.
Big first issue, real big fifth issue, and fourth issue had like a nice extra 6 pages of story in it. So it's lots of like fun extras. It's going to be nice. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks so much, JR. Thanks for and Alex. Thanks so much for having me on and the kind words about the work and yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. This episode definitely lived up to the fake hype that I put in my head. But it was great getting to know you, man, and thanks again. Hopefully we'll be talking with you soon.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, so everybody, that is going to do it for this week. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
I'm Johnny.
And this has been episode 412 of Opinions May Vary. Hey everyone, if you liked that episode, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Opinions May Vary, and on Twitter and YouTube at OMV Podcast. You can also find us on Spotify or on our very own website at omvpodcast.com. And if you're looking for merch, we have stickers and pins available over at omvpodcast.bigcartel.com while supplies last. As always, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we will see you next time.